If you like flowing lines, then this Audi e-tron GT will be right up your automotive alley. It's sexy as hell, and why not? It's not an SUV, let's face it. I mean, that's quite refreshing, isn't it? And I think the thunder might have been stolen slightly because this was launched in 2020, and of course we all know what happened in 2020, COVID, yeah, that's right. But this e-tron GT is gaining fans. I've got to be honest, since I've had this week, everybody has been asking me about it, even people that aren't into cars in my neighbourhood. Wow, what is it? It's gorgeous, it's lovely. So if you like people talking to you, this is the car to buy or lease. Before we tell you more about the Audi e-tron GT, please like, comment and subscribe. The lines on this car are to die for. They're gorgeous. The wheels fit the arches really nicely, 20-inch alloys there. You've got a charging port on this wing and the other front wing. And these rear doors here, you almost don't notice they're there. They just almost sort of dissolve into the rear muscular haunches of this e-tron GT. Come round to the back here and you've got this light bar going all the way round. So at night it looks so dramatic. It's just so well planted. It has curbside presence. It's a car that I would want. It's practical as well. You can get 5 people, 4 really more comfortably inside. Look at it though, another charging flap like I said earlier, right here. And of course, those 4 rings that tell everybody you've done fairly well. All right, it may not be a Taycan on which it's based, but hey, this is an Audi through and through. It's lovely. There are a couple of trim levels, the e-tron GT and the GT Vorsprung Quattro. And there are a few more trims on the RS version, but let's keep it simple and focus on our test car, the non-RS GT Quattro. Even though this Audi was designed with Porsche, hence the Taycan underpinnings, it's neither too sporty nor too conservative. It hits the aesthetic sweet spot beautifully. On the options front, our Audis come with Ascari blue metallic paint, e-tron Sport sound and 5 twin-spoke design gloss-turned alloy wheels. Competitors are clearly Porsche's Taycan and the usual suspect, Tesla's Model S. Look outside of the box and you might want to check out Mercedes-Benz's EQE, and at a real push, the less than Teutonic but quick and sharp-looking Kia EV6 could also be worth adding to your EVs to check out list. Inside this e-tron GT, it's all typically Audi. So let's take a look inside. From the front seats, I can tell you that you can almost smell the word premium. Everything feels so well screwed together. The steering wheel feels thick and sound in the hand, and there's tech that is everywhere, but when you come to drive this car, it's all really simple to use. It's all very, very intuitive. In the front, you've got plenty of headroom, and that's despite this panoramic sunroof here. Everything feels so cocooning and just lovely. These seats are comfy, they support you around corners, and your driving position is just bang on. It feels really good. Storage is not an issue in this e-tron GT. You've got twin cup holders, place to stick your phone or some trinkets. You've got this little cubby here, enough for a pair of sunglasses, a hat, and lots of other bits and bobs. And you've got your phone charge lead here if you wish, because there's a USB port. In fact, there's 2 USB ports in there, and another little slot to stick your mobile phone. So storage is not an issue. This glove compartment here, it may not be the biggest, but it's enough to keep Audi's handbook and servicing info in there, and a few other bits and bobs too. I like to state the obvious, but we are in the rear now, and it's not all good news, you know, because if you are tall, your head will brush the headliner. Although this e-tron GT doesn't have a headliner, it's got, as we said earlier, this big old panoramic roof, which is really lovely, I have to say. It makes the cabin far more airy. But you know what? It's not too bad. Look at this. In terms of legroom, I've been sitting in the front, so I've got all this room still here. Potentially you could get 3 people in the rear, although it's going to be a really miserable experience for this middle seat passenger, because look, it's not really designed to be a seat. But you know what? You've got room here for your feet. It's kind of called a foot garage, I think Audi have called it, because of the way the batteries are housed under the floor. You've even got some controls here to sort of warm yourself up or cool yourself down. very nice. I think the only thing is the forward vision, because of these integrated headrests within the sports seats, it does obscure your forward vision if you're a rear seat passenger, but you know, there's plenty of room between them, I guess, to look out. And if you don't have a middle seat passenger, you've got this lovely armrest that also doubles as a twin cup holder. And usually there are no magazine seat back pockets for your kids to put their copies of Nietzsche or whatever they're reading in this week in. So ingress and egress may be an issue if you've got an issue with your back, because this is a low slung car and the doors are fairly narrow, these apertures are fairly narrow. But you know what, it's something you can live with if you don't have a dodgy back, because on the shallow side of things, I think the look of this car justifies having it. This might look like a hatchback, but it's not. It's a normal boot with 405 litres of space. There's a handy underfloor storage compartment there to stick your laptop in, or probably more likely your cable lead. You can increase the space by kicking all your rear seat passengers out and dropping the seats in a 40-20-40 split. And if you put them all down, that results in 1,171 litres of space. There is a lip, but it's a fairly flat boot, so you know what, it's not too bad. People always comment that we can't always find buttons, but this is where you find the button for the e-tron GT's frunk. Not the most logical of places, I think you'll agree. So stick your fingers in here, matron, and you find the little metal lever, open it up, and there are 85 litres of space, enough for an overnight bag or whatever. This has got a 93.4 kilowatt hour battery, which is enough to give it a decent range of 295 miles WLTP. Really usefully, you've got charging ports on both front wings. AC on this side, AC on that side too, but you'll also find a DC charging port on the passenger side. A 7 kilowatt wall box at home will take you around 13.5 hours to fully charge this. But with DC charging, you've got speeds of 270 kilowatts, which means you can get from 5% to 80% in around 22 minutes. Power consumption is 3 miles per kilowatt hour, but if you've got a lead right foot, then expect a lot less than that. The e-tron GT has a rather conventional steering wheel, which is really refreshing. Got a volume control button here. You can change channels on the radio or your different tracks here. You've got access to your telephone, and on this side you can change the screen settings and your view. Got the indicators there, main beam there, cruise control and cruise limiter here. You've got your windscreen wipers here. Right in front of you, you have what's called the Audi virtual cockpit. It's 12 inches of gorgeous display, if there can be a gorgeous display. You can change the settings like so. Everything is just really intuitive. So you've got the consumption, you have your range, date and time. So you've got your long-term memory here. You've got your navigation map comes up. You've got the different views here of all the range, speedometer, and it also shows which mode you're in: comfort, dynamic, individual, or efficiency mode. Really handy. You've got a start and a stop button, turn it on, okay. We've got all sorts of things here, such as the drive select. You've got your hazard warning lights, parking sensors, and a very small but sweet volume control here, on off for the sound system, and very importantly, your gear selector here in park. Slide it forward for drive, in the middle for neutral, click it up a bit and you're in reverse, and hit P again and you're safely parked. The aircon controls are as simple as can be really. Off, on, eco, max, and you've got your fan here that you can adjust the intensity of it. And of course you've got the temperature here you can set. And the air conditioning is dual zoned at the front, and there's a zone in the back too. 10 inches of screen here, laid out very simply. Car is where you might want to start. Charging and efficiency is clearly very important to us all. If you're in an EV, it's showing here the battery level, we're at 71%. You've also got your media, there's no medium inserted apparently. Go to your source, and you've got all sorts of things here. You can go to radio, There we are. Get rid of that. And you've got telephone. You can hook up to anything here. You've got your navigation screen. It's really simple. If you don't want to select the drive mode manually, which you can do on some of these physical buttons down here, you can do it from here, the Audi Drive Select. There you go, efficiency, comfort, dynamic, individual. Hit that go back button there. Again, you've got the AC here. You can look at it on the screen rather than the physical buttons. Settings and service, if you need to check out the info there. Parking aid, you can do it all from here. So, you know, the volume control of that parking sensor can be adjusted on screen, as can lights and vision. And you've got driver assist here, which you can go maximum, individual, basic. Audi always does a great job with its display when it comes to infotainment and just general driver information. It's just not too complex, and you nearly always have physical buttons if you can't be bothered to find them buried within the system itself. Well, you're joining us inside the Audi e-tron GT Quattro. It still has a motor at the front and the rear axle, and the combined power is 476 PS. You've got a quartet of driving modes in this beautiful GT. You've got efficiency, you've got comfort, dynamic and individual. And I would suggest comfort is the best setting to keep it on, especially as Britain's roads are famously destroyed. Technically, the e-tron GT has got a 0 to 62 time of 4.1 seconds, but there's a whole host of things you have to do to get that kind of speed out of it, and I won't bore you with that, but for the most part this car will do 0 to 62 miles an hour in 4.5 seconds, which is plenty quick enough on the United Kingdom's roads, believe me. Handling wise, this car is just a dream. It sticks to corners, but then a lot of EVs tend to, unless you're in a really tall SUV. The battery is situated very low down under the floor, so you've got this real decent sort of balance going on. The pothole, I just went over one now, doesn't really tend to interfere with the car's direction. It really feels planted and inspires confidence. The only thing that doesn't inspire confidence is the really small rear window. So when you are reverse parking, that's a worry, but thank goodness Audi has stuck on a rear view reversing camera, which does help things a lot. Ride quality wise, this e-tron GT is an absolute joy. Alright, you can feel the potholes and the odd lump and bump in the road surface, but really it's a gorgeous car to drive, really fun. It inspires confidence in the bends, and because the battery is so low down and central between the front and the rear axle, you've just got this absolute plantedness. The only thing that doesn't inspire confidence is when it comes to reversing, because of the really small rear windscreen. But luckily Audi has fitted a reversing camera, which does mitigate things somewhat. As you would expect from a German premium automaker, the brakes are bang on. No issue whatsoever, even when coming back down from a rather quick sprint. It's, you know, absolutely solid as hell. And okay, if you're an automotive anorak, you will agree with me here that the weight of this Audi is going to be heavier than a Tesla Model S. But so what? You know, why should we always have Tesla as the benchmark? In some ways, the weightiness of this car is confidence inspiring, so I've got no issue at all with that. Yes, it affects the range somewhat, but 295 miles officially is not bad. Expect more like 240, 250 in this cold weather. What is very noticeable about this e-tron GT is the hushed ride. It's a very serene driving experience. In the cabin, you can hold a conversation with your family, no issue whatsoever. Most EVs are quiet, let's face it, there's no combustion engine rattling or whatever in the front or the back. So again, what a lovely, lovely car to be in, but you should expect this kind of tranquil ride from a car that is, let's face it, over £83,000 for the basic GT Quattro version. On a motorway, this car is a real pleasure to drive. So on a trip from Northamptonshire to North London, along the M1, it is just your office. But what a gorgeous, fun, lovely, entertaining, aesthetically pleasing office it is. You know, clearly you have to stop to juice the car up, but it's just a real smooth experience. Overtaking, you could sit in the third lane all day long, clearly, but you wouldn't want to do that because you will be draining your range. What I'm trying to say is that an Audi will always be your friend when you're on a long commute. And just because this is a GT, doesn't change that whatsoever. This e-tron GT shares the same platform as Porsche's Taycan. Okay, it's got more, unsurprisingly, GT-like handling. The Porsche is slightly sharper, but you know what, in some ways I prefer this. I don't know why, I just feel it's more of a family car, if you like, and that's what I would be buying this or leasing this for. Under the metal, basically there's a Porsche Taycan in this e-tron GT. From a safety point of view, this has not been crash tested by Euro NCAP. Do you think that's a worry? Well, you shouldn't do, because the Taycan has been examined and that got the full 5 stars. Another reason not to be concerned about the safety side of things in this e-tron GT is that it's absolutely packed with safety kit. You've got everything on it. Yes, there are a few packs that you might have to buy if you want extra safety, but you really aren't going to have a problem if you were to have a bump in this e-tron GT. It's got parking sensors, cruise control, reversing camera and a speed limiter. There's lane departure warning and emergency auto braking. But if you want radar guided cruise control, then you will have to dig a little deeper for an optional pack. You'll also have to fork out more if you want rear cross traffic alert and self-parking. As we may well have alluded to, this Audi e-tron GT is not a cheap car. You won't get much change out of £84,000. And remember, this is the entry-level GT Quattro. You'll be paying well over £100,000 for the Vorsprung version. And if you want the RS edition of this, you're heading well over the £130,000 mark. Audi's warranty on this e-tron GT is not particularly generous. It's 3 years or 60,000 miles, and you get 8 years or up to 100,000 miles on the battery. As I say, that's not overly generous, especially when you consider some manufacturers are offering 7 years or indeed up to 10 years. So even though nearly £84,000 sounds like a hell of a lot of money, you may well think this is worth it. Audis have got a great reputation for build quality. They're nearly always ahead of the curve when it comes to styling. And all right, I might contradict myself when I say this bit. Some people might think you've gone for the poor man's Taycan, but you know what? This is an Audi at the end of the day. Those 4 rings spell the word prestigious. They show you've done well. This is a lovely car and I think it's well worth the money. Lots of people don't really equate EVs with sexy, but they can be, and this is one real example. All right, it's expensive, okay, the range isn't class leading, but at well over 200 miles, this is a real world EV, and one that I would buy if I had just under £84,000. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe.